Peter, and first of all, I have to admit that it's my first time in Tartu. So like, sorry about that. Yes, I know it's something that I'm not like proud of, but I promise you that I will be back. So it's definitely not the last time. But on the other hand, now that I mentioned the shame of like being here the first time, a couple of weeks ago, the Stanford new president was in Beijing, and they had a Stanford alumni meeting there, and he told the people in Beijing that it was his first time in Beijing. And I think that is actually scary, because if you're president of Stanford, and of course not quite as an established institution as the University of Tartu, but still like kind of okay university. If you are the president of that university and you admit that it's the first time you're in Beijing, then I think that it's a bit scary, because I always say that if you want to know what's going on in the world currently, and if you want to understand what's going on, I think that there's no way around it. We also need to understand what's going on in China. So I think it's super important. And actually that's why I typically say that vår way vidare, what sai Beijing Beijing asia sillä Bagachinchi the honey, not sure what a honey you might want made. So how many here speak Chinese? Really? Nobody? Okay, so yeah, what I just said is that my name is Peter, and I studied Chinese at Beijing Normal University for 8 weeks, and that's why my Chinese is not yet perfect. So yeah, I studied in 2016 for 8 weeks, and again, part of this that I think it's important to understand, different places, what's going on in the world. And also I thought that it was kind of like appropriate, because you might have heard that I'm working on this little tunnel project, and it's quite likely that a significant chunk of the funding for that tunnel project will come from China. So I thought it's only like polite that you ask for that funding in your own. So I figured that I better like learn a bit of Chinese. And even actually after I did my 8 weeks of intense like Chinese language training at Beijing, I managed to do a 7-minute presentation in Chinese. So I was quite proud of that, and now I probably couldn't do the same. So I'm going to keep this to English, so don't be afraid. But I think that it's actually, also why I asked about the Chinese and all that. I think it's actually, if I ask here how many speak English, I think hopefully you all do. It's kind of like something that we take for granted. But I think that again, knowing languages and all that is super important. And I decided to learn Chinese now, while I'm still young, because I figured that once you're like old, it might be more difficult. So never too late to kind of like learn new things. So we really need to look at like lifelong learning. But yeah, so maybe start by a bit about myself and what I've been up to. So typically, okay, I'm not gonna start like from the beginning, but I was born in Finland, so let's start there. But then I actually started my working career at HP. So that's the original startup, the company that Bill and Dave started in their garage in Palo Alto in 1939, long time ago. And of course that then gave birth to Silicon Valley. And always like to bring this up. So maybe a couple of things there. That first of all, that many of these things, these success stories and all that take a long time. So Silicon Valley wasn't started yesterday, or it wasn't started by Google or Apple or Facebook or Twitter, or like one of these newcomers, but it was actually started all the way back in 1939 by Bill and Dave. Actually, I was fortunate enough to meet with those guys when they're still alive. Fantastic entrepreneurs, and I think that again really shows that key part of being an entrepreneur is that you really believe that you can change the world. And that was like very clear with Bill and Dave, and I think that they created a fantastic culture, the foundation for the whole startup culture in Silicon Valley. very non-hierarchical, open, these concepts of management by walking around, keeping the tools unlocked, all of that stuff. Very good stuff, actually. But yeah, so it was started a long time ago, and that famous garage in Palo Alto is the first historical landmark of Silicon Valley. So if you ever have your way there, that way, you should drop by the garage as well. But yeah, anyway, so that's where I started. Okay, not in 1939, so not like that old, but a bit later, like in the 90s. But yeah, so then I was working there and doing many things. I was running this HP Bazaar program, which was a way for HP to engage with these innovative new startups. So HP, even though being there right smack in the Silicon Valley, pretty much totally managed to miss this thing called the internet and caught that company by surprise. And then we had to figure out how do we recover, and we create this innovation entity called the Bazaar. We started it in Helsinki, not in Palo Alto, because sometimes you need to take these things away from headquarters. And the idea was really to work with all of these startups providing cool new services, and HP was more in the business of providing the boring infrastructure to run those services. And then in 2003 I organized a game making competition while I was working at HP, and we did a mobile multiplayer games competition in Helsinki. And 2003, long time ago, that's actually when our friends at Nokia, they were still making phones. They had just released their first smartphones, the 7650, 3650, I'm sure everyone remembers those. But anyway, and then we had a competition to make mobile multiplayer games for those devices. And the reason why mobile multiplayer is, of course, as HP, we were interested in providing those servers, the boring infrastructure to run those games. And then three young guys, Niklas, Kim and Jarno, they took part in this game-making competition. They were students at the technical university, nowadays Aalto University, and they created a game called King of the Cabbage World, and they won the competition. And then after the competition, they came to me and asked me that, okay, we're students at Aalto, and we won the competition, what should we do now? And I always have the same advice, when people then ask me what they should do. And I told Niklas and the guys the same thing, that, you guys love making games, love playing games, you should do what you love. So why don't you start a company to make games? And how difficult can it be? So in 2003 they started Rovio and started making games for mobile phones. And then over the following 6 years they made 51 games, and then 11th of December 2009, 52nd game, Angry Birds. So just like with the Silicon Valley story, it didn't happen overnight, it took 6 years, 51 games, and then Angry Birds. So I think that's actually a couple of things there, that even when you are doing what you love doing, doesn't guarantee that you'll have an overnight success story. And a lot of these success stories, like the Silicon Valley or Angry Birds or many things, takes a while and can take a few attempts. And yeah, so 11th of December 2009, Angry Birds came out. And yeah, I said, okay, but yeah, you made 51 games before that, so why didn't you guys give up, making game after game? And what I always say, that it's not all those 51 other games were super bad. Actually, we had some pretty successful games, but it was just that the market was in a very different position, because back then it was totally dominated by the mobile operators, the handset makers. So again, you have to remember that this was before iPhone, before Android. So you didn't have an app store. You couldn't just okay, let's make a game, let's put it in the app store, and let's see if somebody downloads it. actually you didn't have access to distribution. You had to go to our friends at Nokia and say, could you please distribute this game, put it on your phones, or you could go to one of these like big mobile operators and say, okay, could you please like distribute our game? And typically it was totally like based on then some random person at the operator or the handset maker that if he or she liked the game, maybe, but if not, maybe not. And of course all of us want to have, not work too hard. So if you were at an operator or a handset maker, you needed a few games. So then it was much easier to just like, okay, let's talk to EA, they have lots of games. Okay, how many do you want? Okay, 100. Then, okay, here's 100 games. Instead of like talking to all these random small startups, annoying people coming and calling on you and trying to, talk about this like one game that they created. So distribution was very difficult to get to. And it was a very, controlled, not very competitive environment. And that's why it was actually very bad timing to start a company in 2003 to make games. And I think that there's this like golden rule of venture capital that, too early, too late. So it's like all about the timing. That, when is the right time to start a company to make games or to start any company. It's always super difficult to, find the right time. That said, if you ask me about like when to start a company, I think that the best time is probably like yesterday, and today is okay, but if you can't do it today, you can do it tomorrow. So I think that if there's something that you really want to do, don't wait. I mean, just like go for it. I think it's very important, at least based on my experience, so far. I think that's always the case. And if you look at actually, then before we go back to Angry Birds, that many of the people, many of the companies that are now very successful in mobile games, many of them got started in 2003 or even earlier. King, better known now for Candy Crush, they got started in Stockholm in 2003, so same year as Rovio, and of course took a bit of time before they found Candy Crush. Then Ilkka Paananen and his friends, they started a company called Sumea in I think 2000, and of course many of you have not heard about Sumea, or then it became Digital Chocolate, but many of you have heard about Supercell, the company that Ilkka started like a few years later, and then Tencent acquired 10 billion valuation, making Supercell the first decacorn in Europe, so not a unicorn but a decacorn, so that kind of stuff. And I think there also it took many years to get that. It's not like, okay, let's start a company, let's make a game 10 billion. That typically doesn't happen like that. It takes a bit of trial and error. But also then if you look at the Rovio story, so I think that being an entrepreneur, you have to be a bit like crazy, and because I guess the definition of like insanity is like doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So like making game, and okay, it's not like really working, and then like hey guys, shouldn't you like make something else? So I think that's again very important like characteristic of any entrepreneur, that you shouldn't give up like immediately. First setback, then you just like try again and try harder. And of course, always when you do something, you learn. And I would say that I wouldn't call all of these, games and other, things that they are not failures. They're like opportunities to learn. And but then with Angry Birds, so came out with that game 11th of December 2009. And it didn't take off immediately, and if you go back like 2009, the way we got to #1 in Finland is that we used word of mouth marketing, meaning that we told friends and family that okay, why don't you download this game? And 2009, Finland, home Nokia, not too many iPhones, so a few hundred downloads and we were #1, not millions but like hundreds. And I think that, then became #1, stayed there, we became #1 in Sweden, Then Apple took note that there's something going on. They featured the game in the UK, in US, and then made it to #1 and basically stayed there. Then I actually joined like full-time, so I know the guys from like the beginning of time, so basically the competition that we did in 2003. But then started to have a bit traction, and then Niklas and the guys said that we could really use some help in the US. And I said, okay, sure, I can help, you know, like a day or two, and started doing that. And then very quickly realized that, hey, we're onto something. We could make this not only big, we could make it huge. And I always share the story that I was, I think, some Google event or something like that, and you know, talking about Angry Birds, and I wasn't, you know, wearing a red hoodie or anything, just like hanging out there, and you know, like a badge with like Peter, Rovia, and whatever. And then there was this guy that came up to me and, so are you from Rovia, like from Angry Birds? And I said, yeah, sure. And could I please have my picture taken with you? And it's like, you know, San Francisco and stuff. And then like, what? So this guy wants to have his picture taken with like middle-aged guy. Like, what is going on here? First time like ever happened, so I was like a bit like confused. But then, okay, sure. But then I realized that, hey, wow, we have like massive Angry Birds fans, you know, that really, you know, love the game. And this was like pretty early when we had maybe, I don't know, 1 million, 2 million. We had flyers actually for Angry Birds saying that Angry Birds over 500,000 downloads. And of course now it feels like almost like a joke that, I mean, like, why would anybody, like, would Angry Birds celebrate 500,000? I mean, that's like, best days we had 500,000 downloads in one day. But anyway, so then I told, you know, like Niklas and guys that, hey, I'll do this like full time, but let's agree then on 3 things. Let's go for 100 million downloads. And they was already like, Peter, you're crazy. I mean, like, nobody has had 100 million downloads of anything. Tetris got closed, but it took them like 20 years. And so yeah, but you know, 100 million, so let's go for that. And then let's not sell to, you know, Disney and some of those companies that will come knocking on the door. So let's, you know, like not do that. And then the third thing that, okay, and while we're at it, billion valuation. And at that time, I wasn't like just crazy, but more like insane. Because that was like, yeah, right. And then, yeah, but then what happened was actually pretty interesting that, yeah, we had 50 million downloads in the first 12 months of Angry Birds. And then Christmas 2010 happened, and everybody got, or many people got new iPhones, new Androids, and you know, when you get a new device, you go to the App Store, what is #1, oh, this like game with this red bird or something, I'll download that. We added 25 million downloads just over Christmas. And then in March 2011, we did that like impossible goal, 100 million. And then we got a few bottles of champagne, you know, cheers, good job, back to work, 100 million, no big deal. And you know, the Finnish style of celebrating, a little bit like, you know, when Kimi Räikkönen gets on the podium in Formula 1, and it's okay, you know, like, yeah, it was okay, no big deal. Yeah, but then what was very interesting that once we achieved this, that everybody thought was impossible, then everything became easy. And you know, it was just that we did a new game, and then we did like a marketing plan that, okay, 100 million downloads. And then we did. You know, sometimes it took a few more days, sometimes, you know, a week or 2 or whatever, but we always got to that 100 million. So, new game, 100 million, new game, 100 million. So it became like normal. No big deal. Isn't that like what everybody's doing? And also, the company was growing like crazy. We started with 12 people when Angry Birds came out, and then we actually went to like 850 very quickly. So we added like a lot of people every week, one day, new people, you know, share about the story and how we do stuff, and then like we onboarded people like super fast. But people who joined, you know, after the fact, then of course, yeah, this is what we do at Rovia, 100 million downloads, like, you know, it's normal. And then when I'm asked, okay, so what's the secret of success, you know, like how did you guys make this happen? They always said that, yeah, like super easy, I mean, like we're from Finland, and don't you know that everybody in Finland knows how to walk on water? No, so that's what we do, 100 million done. And what I of course mean with this walking water, that everybody in the company just started taking for granted that of course, you know, like you do a new game and 100 million download happens. So it's like, of course we can walk on water, because nobody had proven otherwise. So, you know, like as a company you start to believe and you start to kind of like get into this like flow mode and just like doing amazing things and not being afraid of doing new things. And then of course I always, you know, especially like in China, this place, then I share this little secret that okay, if you come to Finland in December or January, it's actually very easy, you know, this walking on water. Same thing here in Estonia. So it's frozen, just like go there and like walk. And I think that this is also true for many things in life, that first you think that something is impossible, but then you figure out how to do it and then it's easy. And you know, that's for like the 100 million downloads or you know, walking on water, that you know, just get into that mode. Anyway, so then started also expanding into other areas. So we went into animation, went into consumer products. Many times we're told that, hey, you know, like guys, that you're like a games company, that you know, why are you doing toys? You know nothing about toys. And then always say that, yeah, probably we don't, and yeah, we didn't. But we worked with partners that knew how to do that. Like Commonwealth Toy from New York, they've been making toys for like 100 years, so we partnered with them. But also actually the toy example, you know, because I guess we're supposed to talk about like failure and like how to recover and all that as well. So we actually then figured that, okay, let's do this ourselves, like how difficult can it be? So we, you know, Shopify was like a new thing back then, we had shared investors, so we like created a Shopify shop, we ordered like some, I guess, tens of thousands of these like plush toys, and then we set up like this warehousing and everything so we could deliver toys, and then we put an ad for the toys in our games. And what happened was that we sold out in a couple of days, and this was like November, maybe it was actually November 2010, might have been, probably was. Yeah, and then of course with physical products it's a bit different from digital, that you can't just like make these things out of thin air. So what happened was that okay, we sold out, but then a lot of people still managed, because the volumes were pretty crazy, so a lot of people managed to order the toys, but of course no toys to be had, because we made them in China, as you do, and then we got a lot of very angry customers sending us emails and contacting us by many different means that, okay, I ordered a toy for my kid for Christmas, where is it? And it's like, it's nowhere. And actually what we ended up doing then between Christmas and New Year that year, we hired about 20 students from Tartu University just to reply to all the emails and calls and everything that we got from like very angry people who had ordered these toys for Christmas. And it took until March that year, to like the following year, to sort that out. So we learned that, you know, yeah, physical products not trivial to deliver. And you can't like just, you know, scale like you can with games that, okay, $1 billion or whatever, it doesn't really like impact you as a company. And yeah, anyway, but okay, the end result of that was that we then had to build a very good customer support organization, and what happened was that we started getting very good feedback, because we started replying to every question, every comment, because we had to staff and the people. So we got comments that, oh, that, you know, wow, this is, you know, and that back then it was like a 99-cent game, that it's, you know, 99 cents, and you have like people actually answering. I never expected anybody to answer my question, or, you know, all of that. So we got super good feedback for customer support, that we kind of like had to build out of necessity of like screwing up, you know, the web store and all of that. But also I think there was a good lesson that it's not a good idea to try to do everything yourself. You know, it's again, absolutely, in hindsight, it made no sense to build like our own website and all of that. It was, you know, much easier to just give that to somebody actually knows. So started working with Amazon. Animation, consumer products, Then what happened, I mean, we hit the 100 million, and as I said, after that things became easy, because everybody knew that we could do everything, and we weren't afraid of going into new areas. So very good culture from that perspective. But then we hit $1 billion, $2 billion, $3 billion, now actually $4 billion of annual, so making that one of the most distributed pieces of entertainment content ever. And as a side product of that, we made Angry Birds the brand, the fastest growing brand, consumer brand ever. 93% of the Chinese population, 91% of the people in India, 9 out of 10 people on the planet know the brand, and just in a few years. In 2012, top 10 licensed brands, no, actually top 20 licensed brands on the planet. There were, no, it actually was top 10. Top 10 brands. There were 7 Disney brands and only 3 non-Disney brands in the top 10 licensed brands. And all the other brands that were there were like, Mickey and Friends, Star Wars, Hello Kitty, Peanuts, and yeah, a bunch of Disney brands. All of the others were there like for like, I don't know, 30, 40 years, and we got there in 3 years. It was kind of like pretty impressive. And and also showing that you can come from digital and build like amazing brands super fast. Then in 2016 we got the first movie out, made it #1 in 52 countries, in China, in the US, here in Finland, in like many places. And at that time I said that it's a good time for me to step down and start focusing on bigger things. And then I was of course immediately asked like, what could be bigger than Angry Birds? And I said that, and my answer wasn't the tunnel, it was actually education. And I said I'm now going to focus on transforming education globally. So the education market, $6.3 trillion. And if you look at that market, and especially coming from Finland, short school days, not a lot of homework, fantastic results. We have the best educational system on the planet. So we think that we can actually make the global education market much more efficient. So reducing that to half, 3 trillion. And then me, together with a few friends, we're going to capture 10% of the global market, 300 billion. And then I was actually at Slush in Shanghai a couple of weeks ago, and I was asked, but wouldn't I be happy if we captured only like $1 billion or 2 billion? I said, absolutely not, because that would mean that we haven't transformed education globally. So that's actually what we're like set out to do. And then actually that is a bit of a leeway to the tunnel discussion. So if you look at how education works, kind of like not far from here, meaning in like China, in India, in Singapore. If you look at the Asian model, they also take Singapore as one example. They achieve very good results in education. They have similar results, sometimes even better than what we have in Finland. But if you look at then how they achieve those results, school day starts 6 or 7 in the morning, the school day ends 6 or 7 in the evening, and on top of that, like in China, average high school kid, 4 hours of homework every day. So there's school and more school, no life. And Emily, so my friend in Singapore, we worked at HP at the same time, and her daughter is the same age as my son, so they started school same time. Her daughter in Singapore, my son in Finland. And then like just comparing notes on like the school days. First school day for Emily's daughter was that, don't do this, don't do this, do this, do this. 50 things that she was supposed or not supposed to do. And as already described, long school days and massive amounts of homework. Actually in Singapore it's quite common now that the parents end up doing the homework on behalf of the kids. And then I'm like, what? Like, why are you doing that? And it's like, oh, you have to understand. They have to get to the next level, meaning that they have to get into the best university and all of that. So, it doesn't really make any sense. And actually, In some cases it's so crazy that the parents go to school during the weekend so that they will know how to do the homework on behalf of their kids during the week. And I mean, of course, here, Finnish and Estonian people, we're laughing at that, like, what is wrong with these people? I mean, you go to school in the weekend to teach, do the homework on behalf of your kids. But it's actually true, but that's like what's going on there. And it's also, they created a model where it's so competitive that it's normal for kids to hide the school books from the other kids so that they can study for an important test. Or buying their friends a console game the day before a test so that they will play the game and not study. And then I'm like, what kind of sick society are you creating? I mean, it's like not healthy. But the worst part, and why it's super important to actually fix this, last year, 12 to 17-year-olds in Singapore, double amount of suicides. Kids in high school in Korea, 25% consider suicide because of academic pressure. I was in India in April. India is actually the highest number of teenage suicides anywhere on the planet. By April, 8,000 teenagers had killed themselves in India because of academic pressure. You know, fail a test, kill yourself. Not good. So that's why I'm working on transforming education and like applying this Finnish-Estonian model to that, you know, where we have a bit healthier approach to education and we still deliver fantastic results. Short school days, not a lot of homework. Our school system doesn't kill initiative, doesn't kill creativity. That's why we've been very successful in games, in startups. I mean, Estonia has of course been more successful than anybody else. You have 4 unicorn companies, 1.3 million people. Fantastic. So we need to do more of that. Okay, this actually explains why do we need to do the tunnel. If you look at Helsinki and Tallinn, we are the closest neighbor of China. We're the closest neighbor of Japan. We're the closest neighbor of India in Europe. And 3 weeks ago, I was, as I mentioned, in Shanghai. We had Slush Shanghai there. I met with my friend Sam. Sam used to run Rovio and Angry Birds in China. His daughter just turned 6. His son is 3. So he started looking into the school alternatives for his daughter. He has a Chinese passport, which means that he has 2 options. Chinese public school or Chinese public school in English, like with an IB program. And then he looked at this, so his daughter is 6. The school day starts at 6:45, I think it was. And then it ends, you know, like 7 in the evening. And then she has lots of homework. And also what is like interesting there, that let's say math, we all know that there is not like one single answer to a math problem. But what is very typical in, you know, Singapore or in China, that there is only one answer. And typically it's the one that is in the teacher manual that is the easiest to teach. But if then the kids are like into math and they come up with a more elegant and a better solution, they're told that it's wrong. You're supposed to solve it this way. And one of my friends in Shanghai, actually from Finland originally, managed to a Chinese lady. His son writes beautiful essays, but he gets very bad grades because he writes the essays the wrong way. You know, not the right way, but the wrong way. So this is what is wrong with education in many like Asian countries. Okay, many of the parents know about this. So my friend Sam now looked into the school alternatives. His daughter is 6, and then he said that this is not like very healthy. So then he said that, told me that the only alternative for him, he has to move to Finland. And every day I get contacted by somebody from like Singapore or China, India, that okay, how can I move to your part of the world to get the best possible education for my kids? So this is actually what you know, we can expect, that we will see massive growth in this, you know, Helsinki-Tallinn area. It's going to become the biggest, fastest growing metropolitan area in all of Europe. So that's why we need the tunnel. We need to cope with the future growth. So when I was here in, actually not in Tartu, in Tallinn, in 2016 in June, then we had a few friends together we're at latitude 59, and then we're talking, of course, about the fact that, okay, it takes a bit over 2 hours to come to Tallinn from Helsinki, or from Tallinn to Helsinki for slush, for example. Then we started talking about that it would be like pretty cool if we had a tunnel. So I said, okay, like let's make it so. And then I was lucky enough to be sitting next table to your then foreign minister. So I thought that okay, that now that we decided to build a tunnel, I probably better go and share that with the government. So I went over to her and said that we actually now decided to build a tunnel. And then she said, like who exactly? I said, yeah, you see those guys in the table over there? Me and those guys, we're building it. And that's how it started. And of course everybody thought that, okay, this must be like some kind of joke. I did a presentation then about the tunnel project that one of these construction industry hackathons that we had in Helsinki. It was streamed live on the internet. Then Helsingin Sanomat, the biggest newspaper in Finland, Nordic countries, they called me and said, oh, that Peter, we just saw this like presentation that you made and you talked about like the Helsinki-Tallinn tunnel, that this must be some kind of joke, right? I said, no, we're going to build it. So we are doing it. And then I said it's going to take like 5 years and it's going to cost 15 billion. Then I have to admit that I got a bit concerned when I read about the Gotthard tunnel that actually got completed roughly the same time, longest railroad tunnel in the world so far. And it said that, okay, it took 17 years and it was shorter. I mean, our tunnel now, Helsinki and Tallinn, will be a bit over 100 kilometers. So there's like, okay, that hopefully we don't need to break too many laws of nature here, because that's difficult. So anyway, but then turns out that then I contacted Pöyry and Ames and Fira. So Pöyry were actually involved in engineering the St. Gotthard tunnel under the Alps. And we started talking with them, these guys, and then also with GTK, so the Geological Survey Office of Finland. And then they told me that, hey Peter, it's actually very easy. First of all, we have fantastic bedrock, so it's the best possible condition to build a tunnel, between Finland and Estonia. So that's like great. And this is much easier than going under the Alps because we're going under the water, meaning that we can drill in many directions at the same time. So the way we're now going to construct the tunnel, we're going to build from Helsinki Airport to Tallinn Airport. And in between we will have the Otaniemi-Keilaniemi station, that's like home of Aalto University. Third station is the island station, and then Ülemiste. But also in between there will be another island a bit off the coast of Tallinn, so the Tallinn Madal, and then we have the Helsinki Matala in Finland. So drilling from Helsinki Airport, and then actually we have a few sites in between, then from the island, both directions, other island, both directions, and from Tallinn towards Helsinki. Meaning that we can complete the physical construction of the tunnel in 2 years. So the 2-year physical construction is actually not even very difficult with current tunnel boring machines, so TBMs. And we just had a big tunnel boring symposium in Helsinki the 3rd and 4th of September. And we invited Herrenknecht, Robbins, and CREC, China Railroad Engineering Company. We also invited Hitachi, so they're also making TBMs, but they told us that they are not focused on Europe at all. They're only doing like Japan and North America for their tunnel boring machines. And yeah, we spent 2 days, Pöyry, Ames, Fira, and tunnel boring makers, and then we had the Finnish and Estonian government participate as well. And yes, technically to make this tunnel is not very difficult, so we can easily complete like the physical tunneling in 2 years. And where we're at right now with the tunnel, we just completed over the summer the environmental impact assessment in Finland. So that is again to find out the ideal location for the island. and we had 40 people from Pöyry working on that, and it's several hundred pages of text, and again we had divers counting the various species of like fish and other like species, birds, all of that, so that's all part of the environmental impact assessment. And we're now translating that into Estonian, English, and then making shorter summaries, and yeah, Swedish, but then also shorter summaries in languages that we need around like Baltic Sea here. And we're submitting that in the next few days. We're also about to initiate the process here in Estonia, so you have this special process for projects of national interest. So it's something that was introduced in 2015, meaning that environmental impact assessment, the planning permits, the zoning permits are all part of one process. Okay, the only problem that it has never been concluded successfully here in Estonia, so it's a bit of a like unpredictable like process. But anyway, we now have a task force consisting of people from the Finnish environmental ministry, Estonian environmental ministry working together so that we can synchronize the processes. We hope to have the environmental side concluded first half next year in Finland, and then we hope to be equally fast on the Estonian side. And then right now, as I mentioned, these tunnel boring machines, we will actually need 16 of those, so that's kind of like the current estimate. And these tunnel boring machines are not like tiny, they're actually 150 meter long, and our plan is to do 2 tunnel pipes, 17.4 meters in diameter, because we are building a tunnel not for like a few years, but for like the next 200 years. So making bigger pipes makes it like future-proof. The plan is to put in fast rail technology, so over 300 kilometers an hour. So what is commonplace in China and Japan. So basically, China and Japan are the only really realistic like providers of the train technology. Nobody in Europe is making fast enough trains for this. So that's also kind of limits the options somewhat. And yeah, right now the idea is then that we start the actual like boring like at full capacity, full volume in 2020, and then we will have the first trades running the 24th of December 2024. So that is the plan. And the budget for this overall, like the whole tunnel project is 15 billion euros. And the way we're doing the funding, 30% in equity, so ownership in the company. FinEstBayArea Development is the company now running this, and in the consortium we have Pöyry, and Fira. And then, yeah, 30% in equity, 70% in loans. And we expect to conclude like funding arrangements this year. So probably we have something to announce in November. We just did a roadshow promoting the tunnel in September. So we went to Shanghai, Beijing, Singapore, and London. So right now, quite likely that a big part of the funding will come from China. So originally, when we started about 2 years ago, the first thing we did together with PricewaterhouseCoopers, we did a very quick business case to see if it's even feasible. And then we only had the passenger traffic and not like a very good understanding of like the trains and the numbers and all of that. So then we came to a conclusion that the tunnel would pay for itself in 37 years. Okay, now 2 years later, we have actually done a lot of work on like everything, and we took this like World Bank model for like infrastructure development, plugged in all the numbers. It's like a 600 pages of like documentation and all of that. So our finance guys did that. So current estimate is that the tunnel pays for itself in 17 years, and the IRR is like a bit over 11%. So it's like a very good business case. So that's why all the investors that we've been talking to have been very interested, and we've got green lights from actually all the ones we talked to. So as I said, since the beginning of this project, we don't expect the funding to be a big problem in this case.